Hiya folks, you're very welcome to this week's episode of John's Garage. This week we're going to work on the Honda C200. We're just preparing it so that we'll be starting it very soon. I've one last thing which I've had to send off to get repaired. And that's here. That is the ignition. Well, not repaired. Actually, the bike never came with keys, so I sent it off. I was over there. It'll be finished in about 3 or 4 days, so hopefully very soon we'll be starting this puppy up. Now, just a couple of other things. Fuel tank looks awful on the outside. I've opened it up. I actually have a scope that attaches to my phone that I bought on something like AliExpress or something like that. But anyway, I'll send the camera down, check it out. Everything, it's like new inside the tank. I can't show you on camera because it just doesn't work, but trust me, it's like new. What I want to replace is this plastic pipe here. I believe should be rubber, and I want to change that out because, well, it just seems a little bit dangerous. So we'll have a look at that. We'll see. If I'm not comfortable with taking it off, I might just leave it because all I'm really doing is just going to practice starting it to see does it start. Next up, down here a little bit more, we got to put a cap on that ignition lead. Now what I've done is I've taken off the end of it and cleaned it up a little bit, so it should just be a matter of putting the cap on. In here, spark plug goes in here. We have a new spark plug, and then over this side, just down in here, we have a new air filter to go on as well. And after that, we got to top up our battery with some sulfuric acid, I think it is, something like that. Some acid anyway. We've got to put acid in the battery because currently it's dry for transport. And yeah, that's kind of it. Once all that is done, we'll be ready to rock and roll. So hope you enjoy this episode. I'm going to mount the camera and I'm just going to work away on the bike and you guys can follow along. All right, good to see you. Weather is a little crappy today, so we're inside in the shed, and this is kind of, I suppose this is part of the reason that I got the motorbike, because I said during winter days I could work away in it. Now, just for clarity, this is the original, I'm going to guess it is the actual original factory plug NGK that this bike came with. It is in awful condition, but we got this brand new NGK plug which we're going to fit in, which is in much better condition. Now, I'm hoping this is going to be a really easy process of just putting it in. Now, for clarity as well, before anybody asks me, yes, I have spun over the engine. It's spinning well, so I'm not in the slightest bit worried about anything like that. You know what? I'll screw it in by hand maybe to start. Now, I hope the sound is okay as well. I recently broke my microphone and have a new one ordered. So, fingers crossed you're able to hear me loud and clear. So this is obviously for anyone who's ever done any little bit of servicing themselves. This isn't a big deal, literally just screwing in a spark plug. But what was a big deal was getting these things. So I couldn't find the spark plug locally. I had to order it in from David Silver Spares, well-known Honda specialist in the UK. But obviously with ordering anything from the minute, man, Brexit has really messed up delivery times and such. Just takes ages to get things in. It's really annoying. Anyway, I don't want to squeeze in that too much. It's in as far as I'm concerned, and that's all that matters. Next up, genuine Honda part. I don't know, what do you call this? An ignition cap? Something like that? Spark plug cap? Anyway, it's called something like that. So, what we have to do, I'm told, is give that a squeeze in there. Squeeze it all the way down, like so. And as far as it'll go. And essentially, I was told to just twist it. I don't know, does that make sense to you folks? Anybody knows about these things? Because I sure don't. I'm just going to remove this back a little bit, just to tidy it up. I don't think it'll do it any harm, because this is just kind of a protective exterior cover from what I can see. So what I did in preparing to do this was cut back the plastic here a little bit, just to be sure that it was in as good a condition and would make as good a contact as was possible. Yeah, I think that's kind of it really. Now, other than that, as I know, I hope it should. Of course, it's always the way when you want something to work, it ain't going to work for you, is it? So, brilliant. Just like everything else I've started to do lately. It's not doing what I want it to do. So this is the joys when you start off doing something like this, is you got to take your time with it. There we go. All right. Well, it feels like it's in. I have no idea whether it is or isn't now at the minute. You know what I might do with this? I'm not going to be able to check spark, I don't think, without the key. So anyway, that's in. Next up, I'm sure one of you good folks, fine folks, will be along to tell me I've done something wrong pretty soon if I have. So that'll be handy dandy if you could. Anyway, next up, that is to choke up, I am told. This says choke on. I'm told that's the fuel line now open, although I'm just going to leave it closed for now. And what I'm most concerned here about is what appears to have been formerly a rubber pipe. It is very, very hard. I'm kind of, I suppose for the purpose of testing, it'll be okay. But I am just conscious that I may need to replace that in the very near future. A little bit of rubber in it, I suppose. Why I'm conscious of this is it's right above the engine. It'll be carrying fuel. And yeah, there's a fuel shut off, but I just don't trust that pipe, basically, is what it is. Especially with the new E10 fuel going in. I reckon that'll rupture pretty quick. But I do have a new pipe to go on it, so it's not a big deal. My only concern is this pipe going to be wide enough? Do you know what? Let's stop messing around here. Let's just cut the thing. Be done with it. Done. Done. Is it wide enough? Yes, we're good. Okay, so now the pipe I have, of course, I got way more than I actually need, which is fine. But I also, for a change, got really, really nice clamps. Now, I reckon that there, that there. Somebody asked me, should that fuel tank be able to lift up like that? Ooh. That could have been awkward. Up we go. Up you go. I've had that happen before. They've slipped off on something and I've gone and spent ages getting it on, only to realise at the end I've no way of actually tying it. Very frustrating, so just don't make my mistakes, folks. Now, the challenge with this is, it is a little bit tight. You're probably screaming at the screen right now saying I'm missing a trick with putting on rubber hoses. Probably is a way to make this a little bit easier. If there is, share it in the comments because I don't know what it is. Open. Normally use the ring type connections, but I find it really hard to get good quality ones. The guy in the workshop went in to recommended these ones. They're probably as good as I'm going to get out there at the minute. And yeah, they're tightening up good and easy. I don't want to over tighten it. I'm always conscious about over tightening stuff. Mainly because I'm afraid. What have I done with this now? Alright. Mainly I'm afraid if I over tighten it, I'll break things. Whereas with under tighten it, I ain't going nowhere. So just I can keep an eye on it, I suppose. That's the way I'm looking at it. So choke on, fuel, flow. I'm just running through the procedure for when I get the ignition back. And so on and so forth, and that's it. Now, just the battery. Just explain about this. The battery sits up here among this nest of wiring, which we will carefully just push back in there, like so. There's a little fuse there to go with it as well. So that's the live wire coming from the battery. That huddles in there also. This is the ground, which goes to the bodywork here. And this clamp sits up here and clamps it into place and looks after it while we're on the bike. So that's it for now. I'm just going to leave it there because I need to fill it with acid. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you around to the other side of the bike. And I'm going to show you my new old stock air filter, which we're going to fit in there now. And other than that, we'll just be waiting on the ignition to come back. So I went into the guy about the ignition. He couldn't get a key, so he's had to order one in specially. But like, we're talking 10 euros a key. So yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that expensive. So yeah, join me around the other side of the bike. So this is our new old stock air filter. That's pretty much what it looks like. I don't believe I have to do anything special with it. So I was kind of saying during the introduction, I got a scope. So I bought this scope on Alibaba or AliExpress, one of those. And I used that to open up, well, to put it into the fuel tank to check it, and I was amazed. The fuel tank is actually like new on the inside. It's absolutely perfect. So I was really happy when I saw that. Well, while it was what I was expecting, it's always nice to see it as well and to absolutely confirm it too. So that's the air filter. I'm assuming this just pops off. It's probably, yeah, welded to it. Now, it's kind of interesting, and I hope the camera's picking it up. There is multiple shades here. We've kind of a darker blue, we've primer, we've a lighter color blue. But I know if you scratch off between all that, and kind of if you could see in here a little bit more, bike was originally black. So that might be something we have to look into returning to its original state, original color, because obviously we like originality. Making sure, yeah, look at the difference. So the reason I went and got a new air filter was very simple. I just wanted to give this bike every chance of starting, and that is after sitting in a barn for 35 years. It's the technical term, I believe the technical term is it's minging. That's the term I'm going to use anyway for what it is. As pleasant it is not. So let's try and line this up and get it on first time. No, I feel like I've gone too high there with that one, sorry. That's kind of it. We just screw it on and hopefully it takes. Yes. So this is it. Now, one thing you'll notice that is missing from this pre-start service is an oil change. I did the oil change off camera. I came out one day, I was kind of having a bit of a long day at work, and I decided I just wanted to tackle the bike a little bit. So what turned out that happened when I dropped the oil out of it was that, well, there was no oil in it, which is kind of weird because of the 3 bikes, it's the only one that turns over, yet it has no oil in it. So yeah, you can figure that out yourself. But what I expected at that stage said, oh no, there's probably a crack somewhere in the block or it's leaked out, there's a seal gone. But I filled it up, I did the service, I cleaned it up afterwards. Not a drop of oil is leaked out, so I don't exactly know what was going on, but this is 35 years since it went on. I guess I'm not going to find out either. Weird. Looks like that oil filter was on when it was freshly painted at some stage. Anyway, other than that, the last thing to do is top up the battery so that when the key comes next week, we can start this beast. Okay, folks, as I said, what I got was a dry 6-volt battery, so we need to wet that battery now, I suppose, really. We need to prepare it for starting the bike. Now, first thing what you got to do is wear gloves. We are handling concentrated battery fluid, which will burn the living daylights out of you. It's basically sulfuric acid. Now, as far as I'm aware, it's not, we'll say, full fat, we'll put it that way. So it's not going to burn the living daylights out of you immediately, but still, nobody wants to get injured trying to do something like this. Please stop opening up further. So first thing I'm going to do is very, very carefully remove the top of the bottle and praying to God it doesn't splash up in my face when we do that. Next thing I'm going to do is fit this little bit of piping to it, and that allows me to run it into the battery. Now, looking at the battery, you can see there's an upper level, lower level. It's an indicator that it's a dry battery. Whoop, if I brought that under here, it would help actually. There's an upper level and a lower level, and I got to fill it up to the upper level. Then what I have to do is let it sit for half an hour. Now, I'm not very technical, but I'm going to describe it as this has got 3 cells, there's 3 filling points. I don't know, folks. Maybe one of you could tell me, is it cells or what on earth is it? I always find working with batteries and stuff, not batteries, but wiring, a little bit confusing. So much so that, well, wish me luck, folks, because here we go. Yep, it's not flowing. Please just flow. So I'm just concentrating here, folks, a little bit because I'd like if it flowed. I'll leave that there for the dog to lick. I'm going to use a shorter hose, to be honest with you, folks, because that's just taking the mech taking that long. It shouldn't need to do that. There we go, that's working a little bit better. Okay, now we're sucking diesel, folks. Again, probably not meant to do it this way, but this is the way I'm doing it. Maybe that was a little optical illusion in the end, but no, definitely overfilled it. Brilliant. Or maybe it is an optical illusion. Well, an optical illusion in them all apart from that one. Right, I'm going to leave that down the concrete because I don't want it to do damage. Next thing I have to do is the really simple bit that I should be capable of doing, is just leave it alone for half an hour. Now, what's going to end up happening is inside in the battery, just checking it against the light there, folks. So inside in the factory, inside in the battery, there is what appears to me maybe little paper cells, and I'm hoping they will suck up a lot of that excess. So we'll return to that in half an hour. Just warn everybody in my household to stay away from this. So see you back in half an hour, folks, which will be about 30 seconds on this. So folks, the battery's up and coffee's on charge. As you can figure out, the very first video we did on this bike back here, well, not on this bike, and actually all of these bikes, I wasn't too sure which of the bikes I was going to go ahead with. Well, this was always a Project C200, but the SS, where's my hand? But the SS50 back here, wasn't sure whether I was going to do that or the C200. I decided to go with the C200 simply because I think it's really cool, and that's kind of it. So we're all prepped apart from an ignition. Well, we need the key, we have the ignition switch, so the key is hopefully on the way, and next week we'll get that, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to fire this bad boy up. Anyway, check back then, talk to you again, folks. Bye bye.